Hello everyone! It is now the end of January, so I am here to tell you about all of the amazing books I read for the first month of 2024. I read 9 books, which is really good for me. I feel like I haven't read this many books in 1 month in a very long time. I read some wonderful children's books, some literary fiction, some middle grade, some short stories, some picture books. The first few books that I read in 2024 were my favorite picture books because I have been writing and illustrating my own novel for a year and a half now, a little more than a year and a half. I am in the process of illustrating all of the pictures for the book, and I've just been really seeking some inspiration from my favorite books. So the first book that I read in 2024 is The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. This is one of the picture books that really made me into the reader and the person and the illustrator that I am today. This was such an influential book when I was a child, and the illustrations are so beautiful and simple, but the message is so huge and profound and deep. And if you haven't read this book, oh my goodness, please, 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 please read it, especially if you're an adult. You can get so much out of this book. My boyfriend actually hadn't read this book, and so we read it together, and it was such a wonderful experience just reading it with him, and he loved it as well. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful book. Shel Silverstein's work is amazing. It is about this giving tree and a little boy who the tree loves, and she basically just gives and gives and gives to him. And it's so beautiful and symbolic and meaningful, and I just love it. So yes, that was my first read of 2024, a 5-star. I mean, more than 5 stars. I love this book so much. Okay, and then the next one is another incredible picture book, and this is The Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lessmore, and this is by William Joyce. This is such an incredible book about fantastical books. It's this man who goes on this journey, finds these magical books, and how the books affect his life and how he affects the books' lives. And it's just incredible. Again, it's such a deep, meaningful story. Definitely read it if you are an adult. I think something about me is I am an absolute advocate for adults reading children's literature, because I think children's literature is even more impactful and even more important to read when you're an adult. So yes, I highly, 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 highly recommend and suggest and urge you to read children's literature, especially the books that I will be talking about today, because I adore them so much and I highly recommend them. But yes, this is just such a beautiful, meaningful story, and the illustrations are gorgeous. So another favorite. That's more of a new to me favorite. I didn't grow up reading that one. Same with this one. This one I found pretty recently, and that is Music for Mr. Moon, written by Philip C. Stead and illustrated by Erin E. Stead. They are a husband and wife duo, and I just love that they work together. This is about a little girl who is a cellist, and she is very shy. She doesn't want to play the cello for people, and she ends up knocking the moon out of the sky and goes on this adventure with the moon, and the moon kind of helps her with her fear of playing in front of a crowd or playing with people. It's such a beautiful story. Again, very deep and very meaningful, as all children's literature is. I love this back illustration as well. You can kind of see how beautiful her style is, because she uses pencil and I believe ink as well to get this beautiful, colorful texture. So yes, that is Music for Mr. Moon. And then the next book, I reread my favorite literary fiction book of 2023, but I listened to the audiobook because I hadn't reread the book yet and I hadn't listened to the audiobook yet. And that is Small Things Like These by Keegan. If you have been watching my videos lately, you have heard me talk nonstop about Keegan. I just love her writing so much. Her stories are so beautiful. Her writing is so beautiful and deep, and it's quiet and powerful all at the same time. It's quiet and loud, but I think quiet and powerful is a bit better. Just every sentence is saturated with meaning. I feel like she picks and chooses the words so perfectly to convey a very deep message in a short word count. It's just incredible. What she does is incredible. She is an absolute genius in my eyes, and I cannot recommend you read this book enough. I don't want to say too much of what it's about, but it's set in Ireland. She's an Irish author. It is just gorgeous. It's like an everyday hero kind of story. I don't want to give too much away. It's being turned into a movie with Cillian Murphy. I cannot wait for it to come out, so I would recommend reading it before it becomes a movie if you're interested. I, again, cannot recommend it enough. 5 million stars. The next book that I read was a 4-star, although it was fantastic, and that is Wolf Hollow by Lauren Wolk. This is a Newbery Honor book, which is amazing. I've been trying to read, or just put on my TBR, all of the Newbery Honor and Caldecott Award winners, just because that's something as a lover of children's literature and someone who is aspiring to be a children's author and illustrator in children's literature, I want to read all of it. So this is a really beautiful historical fiction. How do they describe it on the back? Because there's just so much to this book. It says, "If my life was to be just a single note in an endless symphony, how could I not sound it out for as long and as loudly as I could?" Despite growing up in the shadows cast by 2 world wars, Annabelle has lived a mostly quiet, steady life in her small Pennsylvania town, until the day new student Betty Glengarry walks into her class. Betty quickly reveals herself to be cruel and manipulative, and while her bullying seems isolated at first, things quickly escalate, and a reclusive World War I veteran, Toby, becomes a target of Betty's attacks. While others have always seen Toby's strangeness, Annabelle knows only kindness. She will need to find the courage to stand as a lone voice of justice as tensions mount. Brilliantly crafted, Wolf Hollow is a gripping tale of one girl's resilience, strength, and compassion in the face of injustice. It's a fantastic book, beautiful, beautiful story, and it's really about how bullying can escalate, and there are aspects of, obviously, the war, and blame, and guilt, and just, there's so much to this book. Again, middle grade is so fantastic. I think it's my favorite genre. I'm a little biased because I am an aspiring middle grade author, but I just think that middle grade really gets at the core of humanity. These books are written for children who are really growing and developing into the people that they will become for the rest of their lives, and it's just such important reading that you will do at that age. And yes, I feel just the literature of middle grade is incredible. Again, highly recommend reading it. Wolf Hollow is fantastic. And then we have another middle grade. So, like I said, I've been in the process of illustrating my novel, and I was beginning to do a painting, and I got really in my head about it, and I got really nervous, and I was thinking, like, you know, what if this doesn't come out well? What if I can't execute what I imagine in my head? And I just got really in my head about illustrating and working on this painting. And I said, Carolyn, shush, that voice in your head, please be quiet. And I decided to listen to one of my favorite books. It is the book that really inspired me to be an illustrator and made me realize that we can tell stories in pictures, and it's my favorite middle grade, and that is The Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick. Brian Selznick is my favorite middle grade author because when I was 9 years old, I found this book at the library. I saw its spine, and I was just so drawn in by this pencil drawing of our main character Hugo's face, and it's a beautiful, beautiful book, written and illustrated in words and pictures, and I owe everything to this book. Yes, so I just adore it so much, and while I was listening to the audiobook, it just made me feel comforted, and it felt like coming home, and I finished the painting. I was really, really happy with it, and it came out exactly how I imagined in my head. So Hugo has been a constant companion in my life since I was a kid. This book kind of inspired me to become an illustrator, and it's also accompanying me on the journey of fulfilling that dream. So it's just really, really special to me. So highly recommend checking it out. It is just one of my favorite books absolutely ever. So then the next book that I read, oh my gosh, I was so excited when I found this book at the Strand bookstore in New York City. So my boyfriend and I went book shopping in the city, and we were looking around. I was looking at all the children's literature as per usual, and I saw that one of my other favorite middle grade authors came out with a new book, and I had no clue. And I am so good, I'm so up to date with all of like the new releases, especially of my favorite authors. And anyway, when I saw this book, I almost squealed. I think I did squeal. And that is Kate DiCamillo's The Puppets of Spelhorst. This is a Normandy tale illustrated by Julie Morstad. First of all, the story's incredible, the illustrations are incredible. I was so excited when I saw this book, I can't tell you how much. The back says, discover the wonder of a land called Normandy in this original fairy tale by two-time Newbery medalist Kate DiCamillo. This is a story that's perfect for savoring alone or for reading aloud and sharing with those you love. I read it alone in one sitting at the library. I have been going to the library with my boyfriend, and we've been working, and I've been working on my writing and my illustrating, and then we went there one day just to read, and I read this in one sitting at the library. It was such a beautiful experience, and yes, I just can't recommend Kate DiCamillo enough. Here's my bookmark from Strand. So this book, first of all, is beautifully illustrated. There's an illustration on almost every page, and they're gorgeous. They're by Julie Morstad, and they are just such gorgeous illustrations, and they really... Her writing is incredible, but I think the beauty of illustration is that it just makes the words come alive. Anyway, not to give anything away by showing you the illustrations. This is about a box of puppets and the journey that these puppets go on, and how they're destined to be in a story and what that story will be about. They all have very specific personalities, very specific traits, and it's just beautifully done. Again, kind of like Claire Keegan, I feel like Kate DiCamillo can really pack such a punch in a very short page count, and I think that I admire that so much, because when I was writing my book, I was attempting to do that, but I did find myself going, like taking a bit more time and using a bit more words, and then having to cut down and make it a bit more succinct. But I think that that's all part of the process, because I was telling myself the story, or the story was telling itself to me, and then I was working then with the editor part of my brain to kind of make it as strong as it can be and as succinct as it can be. So anyway, all about the process. But yes, this is a beautiful story. I am such a fan. Ever since I was a little kid, when I read Because of Winn-Dixie and The Tale of Despereaux and The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, and all of her books. But yes, Kate DiCamillo, she owns my heart. Okay, and then the next book I also got at Strand, and I don't think this is like spoiling anything, but I am a lover of the stars, and stars and the night sky and the moon have a role in my book that I'm working on right now. And I found this book, and it's called Stargazing, Contemplating the Cosmos to Find Inner Peace, and it's a pocket nature book from Chronicle Books, and it is written by Swapna Krishna. I saw this book, and it's all about understanding the night sky, understanding the stars, and it has beautiful illustrations as well. Love those pages. So it says the introduction is a history of stargazing, understanding the night sky, 17 constellations to look for, and then the resources of the book. And I loved learning more about the night sky and more about the stars, because I know a good amount, because I'm very much interested in astronomy and interested in outer space. I have been ever since I was little. I think that's also partially due to my dad, who has always loved space and just learning about the night sky, learning about the stars and the planets. And this was such an incredible book. It wasn't too technical and hard to understand. It was very easy to grasp the concepts, the way that Swapna explained how the different elements in the night sky work and why they're named what they're named, and what they are, explaining like everything. in a really easy to understand way, which I really appreciated, because though I have some background in astronomy, I am not hugely versed in the subject, which is why I wanted to get this book, and I adored it. I loved it so much. So yes, it has history of stargazing, it has some nice quotes as well, and then it also has like different little meditations that you can do, which I think is really nice. It talks about a bunch of the different constellations as well, so summer constellations, autumn constellations, winter and spring constellations, and it was just a really, really beautiful book with gorgeous illustrations. So I loved this so much. Highly recommend checking it out if you're interested in the stars. Even if you're very new, this is perfect for you. That rhymed. Anyway, so that is Stargazing. And then the last book that I have to tell you about that I finished, the 9th book that I read in January, is Antarctica by Claire Keegan. Claire Keegan strikes again. It is a collection of short stories. I loved some of them, didn't love some of them. I feel like I gave it 3 stars. So I think my thing about this book is that I loved the writing. Again, I think that Claire Keegan is a genius when it comes to crafting a story. But the stories themselves is kind of where it lost me, just because not that they weren't good stories, they were incredible stories, but they were just really, really harsh and dark and disturbing at times. And that's not really what I was expecting from this book, so I think it just took me by surprise. But I did really enjoy it, just like as works of short stories, because I am very much interested in short stories. I have written countless short stories, and I love reading short stories. But the thing about a short story collection is that you're guaranteed to prefer some stories over others, which I did. Yeah, so I just wasn't expecting these stories to be so dark and at times unsettling, which I also feel like I don't gravitate towards stories that are like that, but I do think it is good to expand your literary horizons and read different things that you might not gravitate towards normally. So yes, really loved this because her writing is gorgeous and I just adore Claire Keegan as an author. But again, just go into this book if you decide to pick it up knowing that the stories are a bit dark and harsh and brutal at times. So yes, I specifically wanted this edition though because it is the UK edition from Faber and Faber, because I loved this cover. How cool is that cat? And I don't know if you can see, but the cat's eyes are like bright blue, which I just think is such a cool cover. And then it's on the spine as well. Those are all of the books that I finished. I am also in the middle of reading The Count of Monte Cristo for the Game of Tomes book club. I am adoring it so much. I am a little less than halfway through, and it is such a roller coaster. It is such a page turner. It has captured my attention, absolutely. And I've been loving every page. And then another book that is in a stack over there that I just don't feel like taking all the books off to get it. I am in the middle of reading The Winners by Fredrik Backman. Finally, I'm almost done because I have been trying to read that book for so long, and I think my issue is that I just never want it to end because I love the Bear Chan series so much. But anyway, so yes, still in the middle of those books, so that will continue on into my February reading, but these are all of the books that I read in January. I highly recommend picking all of them up. They are all fantastic, and I hope that you enjoyed hearing me talk about them. So yes, also definitely let me know what books you read in January and if you recommend any of them to me. I am always looking for new book recommendations. A huge one would be recommend to me your favorite middle grade, because I would love that. If you have a favorite middle grade book, let me know what it is. Even if I have read it, we can chit chat about it, which I would just love to do. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video and for being so kind and supportive and wonderful. If you're joining in for the Game of Tomes book club, I hope you are also enjoying The Count of Monte Cristo, and I will see you very soon in another video, sending you my very best wishes, and as always, happy reading.